Fellas, you know Degree Cool Rush deodorant, right? Well, last year they changed the formula, and guys were mad about it. One dude even started a petition. So guess what? Degree heard us, admitted they messed up, and brought the original Cool Rush scent back exactly how it was. And it's in Walmart, Target, and other stores now for under $4. So grab some and remember why its cool, crisp, and fresh scent made it the #1 men's antiperspirant for the last decade. Degree Cool Rush is back, and it smells like victory for all of us.
Now's a good time to remember where tequila's story truly began. In 1795, Cuervo invented tequila.
Cuervo.
What are you doing here?
Cuervo. Anytime someone says Cuervo, I show up.
Well, I do know that to be true, but even during ad reads, like...
Cuervo.
I think you could lay out, especially for one of our great partners.
Sweet, delicious Cuervo.
Since then, Cuervo has stayed true to its roots. The same family, the same land, the same passion.
Cuervo.
So, enjoy the tequila that started it all. Cuervo.
Cuervo.
The tequila that invented tequila. Proximo. Cuervo.com. Please drink responsibly.
Cuervo.
This is the Dan Le Batard Show with the Stugotz podcast.
Everybody, it's time for Against the Spread. And it's presented by DraftKings. DraftKings, the crown is yours. Game 4, Stanley Cup playoffs. First round, the Florida Panthers lead the series against the Tampa Bay Lightning 2-1. The Panthers have a 7-game winning streak at home following a loss. However, between these two teams, Florida and Tampa, the underdogs have covered the puck line in 11 of the last 12 games in Sunrise. And because of that, I think the Panthers are going to win, but they are going to win by 1. So, yes, go with the Tampa Bay Lightning at a underdog of 1.5 goals against the spread. But the Panthers are going to win. Billy.
Dan, I'm going to stay on the ice, and I'm going to take the Florida Panthers -1.5 against the Tampa Bay Lightning. I don't know what's going around these parts here. What's this? I don't know what's going around these parts where everybody all of a sudden is afraid of this Lightning team. And I was told, I don't remember because, honestly, I blacked out. Because when I see red, I see black also at the same point in time. So last week I was seeing red and I was seeing black, and I was told over the weekend that I proclaimed in the Panthers and Lightning series that I wanted to get hit by lightning, and that's how unafraid of the Lightning that I was. And I don't remember saying that, but I believe that in my heart and soul. This Lightning team is so soft that if they struck me, I wouldn't even feel it. It'd be like a zap, a little zap. So I know what you're saying. So far in this series, the road team has won every game, Billy. Panthers won 2 at Tampa. Tampa came back, returned the favor. Seemed like a very lopsided game, 5-1. Don't pay attention to that score. Open netter in there. When there's an open netter, you toss the records out. You know what I mean? That game, a little blip on the radar. Panthers are going to come back, and they're going to show everyone why. This is, in Sunrise, Florida, the home ice that everyone is afraid to play on. It is so hot that the ice can melt because of the energy that all the Panthers fans bring into the arena when they see red. And Dan, you know, because you've hit that drum. You know that when that drum is beat, it is a totally different animal.
He just said the road team is winning all the games. That was his information.
I said it too, and I'm telling you, that ends today.
All right.
Ride the Panthers and ride them hard. Florida Panthers, -1.5. Woo! Against the spread!
I'm glad in a contract year you guys are doing such a good job with not doing that in a way that impresses anybody. You both just picked. All you guys do is make homer picks. Like that, you guys just pick the home team to always.
No. I told you guys all year long. My NHL picks have been on fire this year. I've been telling you guys, Ducks fly together all year long. Now, unfortunately, the Ducks aren't in the playoffs right now, so I can't take the Ducks. But tonight, we're on the bandwagon, baby. Woo!
Roy, don't try and defend your pick by saying I only have the Panthers winning by a single goal. Like you're trying to prove to me what a homer you're not by always picking the Panthers to win.
Listen, they're not going to cover tonight, Dan. I'm sorry.
All right.
Hell yeah, they are.
All right, but Billy says they are. So you guys got different picks. Anyone want to pick Tampa? Anyone?
I dare you.
No? Okay.
Roy picked Tampa, technically.
No, he didn't.
I think Tony has a game.
He did not pick Tampa technically. He picked Florida technically. to win. He said flatly he thought Florida would win.
But not to cover.
Yeah, it's
Exactly.
a 1.5 goal
Against the
spread. So he took the spread.
If this
have
is the
to-
money line, it'll be different.
Okay.
Do you have to explain gambling to you, Dan?
Thank you guys for all your help. Yes, yes, you guys are such great gamblers that I want all of your advice because we get it, and it's so clearly all important information.
I
that
have
you
one
guys
over at the
give us.
association if you want.
No,
Ride the Heat!
I don't want. Yeah, okay. So
Don't
the
do
Heat. The Heat have lost 7 straight home playoff games. Tyler Hero didn't touch the ball very much in the last game, and Cleveland did that to him. And that's what the Heat look like when he's your number one option. They're going to be a team that loses more than it wins. Darius Garland did not play for the Cavs after saying that they targeted Tyler Hero, and in his place, Sam Merrill went 0 for 3, no points, and it didn't matter. They still handed the Heat their worst playoff loss ever.
0 for 3, but still a very funny guy.
0 for 3. So Garland is out. Sam Merrill plays the 19 minutes, doesn't do anything the entirety of the game, and the Heat lose by more points than they ever have in a playoff game.
But then he did a full set at the ha-ha hole.
They've lost 3 games by 76 points combined. I don't know whether quantifiably this is the most lopsided playoff series ever, but in my mind,
It is not.
In my memory, it is.
It is not. I think there's the
37
Oklahoma
points.
City Memphis
This
one.
year?
Yes, just
Other side of the bracket.
yes. The other series.
Well, hang on now.
That is, well, the
Greg,
first
they won a
was
game by
53,
50.
Greg, the first game. Okay, you're going to hang on.
Hold on.
All right,
They're-
see.
all right,
Dog with a bone.
They're up.
Continue your show, and I'm going to
Yes,
look something
let's
up.
continue.
Okay,
Sam
you
Morrell
could-
could have a big night
You
tonight.
could look it up, and you will find out that Oklahoma City has bigger margin. We will. Well, you will see. I'm telling you, and the rest of us are telling you that we know it to be so because the first game was decided by 50 plus
But this
points.
series isn't over yet. If the Heat lose by 100 tonight, then this one obviously will be more lopsided.
Miami's average losing margin is greater than the Grizzlies was. That's quantifiable. I'm looking up. I'm looking at the numbers right here. Hang on just a second.
No, you
Continue
keep
your show.
telling us.
We're
You keep
hanging
telling
on
us
that.
to hang on, but you said a total number was 70 something. Look, he's doing the math.
78. I'm right. 4 divided by 78 is less than 3 divided by 76. Quantifiable. Most lopsided playoff series in Greg Cote's memory. Heat. Heat. Not Grizzlies.
Okay,
Heat.
thank you. I appreciate you petering out there the way that you did.
I did the math.
Okay,
You know,
you did do
deny
the
it.
math. That you did it. You did it by average, and then you did 4 games instead of 3.
Well,
and,
that's the way averages work.
They've only played 3. What are you supposed to do?
Right.
And in Greg's defense, he said in his memory, he didn't remember the other series.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true.
Well, I remembered that the Grizzlies lost 4-0 by less than a margin than the Heat is currently losing. That's what I remembered. Was I right? Hell yes. Yes, I was.
you are not right that this is the most lopsided series ever played. You are
Okay, what
also
is?
not. You are also not.
What is?
You are also not right on the idea that somebody hasn't been outscored by more than 70 whatever points you have said.
On average, it's
No, but through 3
376.
games, Memphis had been outscored by OKC by more than the Cavs have outscored the Heat.
Yeah, but not in total.
If I may, Greg, let me stand up for you here.
Thank you.
The playoffs are all about adjustments, right? What happened there is Greg said 76 points. That's the biggest margin over the course of a series in his memory, and then we called him on it, and then he figured out it wasn't, but it was when you do the average. What Greg just did there, Dan, is a playoff adjustment. He adjusted. It's a chess move. Now it's your turn. What are you going to do?
What were your thoughts this weekend when you guys saw the room that Texas quarterback Quinn Ewers was sitting in while he was drafted? I thought that Quinn Ewers would go higher. Did you see the room that we're talking
No.
about? Look at the screen right there.
My God.
An avid hunter with a lot of dead animals around him. He'd be much better off if he had gone back to college for another year. Although I guess Arch Manning would or Ark, as Ellie says. I assume that Arch Manning will be starting there next year, even if Quinn Ewers had returned.
Well, he wasn't going to return. He was made offers by a number of schools, and there's reports of up to $8 million in NIL money to get Quinn Ewers to go be your quarterback for a year. He opted, very questionable decision, to go to the NFL. when everyone kind of knew he wasn't going to be drafted very high. And now I believe he's going to be on the Dolphins, and he's going to make like $800,000 a year. So he's getting 10% of what he could have gotten had he stayed in college last year. I guess he's really gambling on himself. The room is wild, and I think, and I could be wrong here, I think had the coaches and the GMs seen that room earlier, he probably would have gotten drafted higher. I think that part of the reason why he didn't get drafted earlier is because they didn't see that room. Because that room reads, NFL coaches love this guy.
Killer
instinct. Hunter, yeah, absolutely.
Wow. Guys, I think I've discovered my new assignment for Pablo Torre Finds Out because
giving it yourself?
I'm gonna find out. I don't think he killed all those animals.
No.
He's right now, that's stolen valor. That's not him.
Wow.
Somebody else did the hunting, and he just sat on the couch.
I need Ron McGill's commentary on that photo, by the way.
All right, we will get that tomorrow. He's not here today.
Waste of antlers.
How many animals is that is in the room? And is that a bear over there on the left? Is that a
bison, maybe?
A tiny bear? Like, what's happening? There seems to be a tiny bear wearing a hat over there on the left. I don't know what the. Thank you. There it is.
Yeah, there he is.
There, it's a
Why
bear.
is he wearing a hat?
But it's a
Pomeranian up top? What is that?
Small bear.
alive.
That is absolutely not something. What is that? That's a taxidermist that got a hold of a baby bear. That's just a stuffed animal. That's
Guys,
not something that was killed.
That's what I'm saying. Like, I think if we do a little deep dive into a lot of these animals in the background, we're going to find out a lot of this is just all fictitious. It's fugazi.
Wow.
This guy right here, he's playing the part. You know what? I wouldn't draft him because I don't believe he did all this stuff.
What if they're like animatronic and it's really like Country Bear Jamboree when he walks into that room, like they start singing?
I like it.
Is the Country Bear Jamboree still a thing at Disney?
Oh, it's been repurposed. Yeah, Country Bear Musical Jamboree. So I went not too long ago, and I'll tell you what, Dan, they closed it about, I want to say a year ago, and they refurbished it. You know what? If you like Disney tunes, now the Bears, it sounds corny, now they're singing some of the hits. They're singing Aladdin.
Is that a T-Rex? Is that a T-Rex?
What I told you guys. Come on now. Come on, man.
Dude, this guy's a time traveler.
This dude's a fraud, man.
What do you mean a fraud? That's absolutely something. He would have gotten drafted higher if anyone had seen that was a T-Rex in the corner of the room.
Can I ask you, since he's a Dolphin, so there's kind of a connection here? When we got to day 3, were you thinking, Dan, what I was thinking? Shadur's better than Zach Wilson. Like this, Shadur to the Dolphins could make a little bit of sense here. Now the problem is, circle of trust here. Problem is, we know Tua's probably going to get hurt in one form or fashion again, right? At some point in time. And then when Shadur comes out, if he lights things up, then you really have a quarterback controversy on your hands, which I feel like is why you get Quinn Ewers, because I don't think there's a person on earth that is going to be chanting for Quinn Ewers to come into the game, or Zach Wilson. But that's why, like, you don't get Shadur, right? Because you don't want the controversy if Tua gets hurt again. But he's better than Zach Wilson.
But Billy, wouldn't you rather have like 2 good quarterbacks than one?
Yes, I do, because I've seen what happens when Tua gets hurt every year, that they don't have a competent backup plan, and now the backup plan is Zach Wilson, who is, I guess, better than the options that they've had in the past, but we know that he's not going to be.
But why would you say that Quinn Ewers is better than him when one of them has a skill set that gets drafted top 5 in the sport, and the other one in a draft that's weak on quarterback goes late in the draft?
No. I'm saying Shadur is better than Quinn Ewers and Zach Wilson. That's why I would have taken him.
Yes,
But are they better than Zach Wilson, given that Zach Wilson's measurables were he's a top 5 first-round pick?
Well, I mean, we know what Zach Wilson is, where I guess in the unknown we don't know what Shadur is in the NFL, right? Like, we've seen Zach Wilson in so many stops that, like, I would rather gamble and have Shadur be my backup quarterback than have Zach Wilson, who we kind of know what exactly he's going to be.
Confession, when Dan said when one guy has a skill set that we know to be valued at top 5 in an NFL draft, I thought you meant Quinn Ewers hunting down the T-Rex. I was like, that is a pretty good skill. I mean, if he does have it, a time machine.
By the way, Zach Wilson's top 5 days it seemed like 1,000 years ago. He's proved himself for what he is. That's why the Dolphins got him on a 1-year deal for the NFL equivalent of about $5,000.
How old, just for the record, how old is Zach Wilson? Because while I understand that we've seen him play in the pros and not play well in the pros, his measurables in a good quarterback draft got him drafted very high. You guys are talking about people who are in a weak quarterback draft who went very low.
Yeah, but they went low in Shedeur. He fell historically.
But even if he'd been taken highest, even if he'd been taken the highest that anyone had taken him in any of the drafts, 9th from the Saints, he still would have had a skill set less good where the measurables are than Zach Wilson.
But the measurables can be deceiving, right? Like Mel Kiper famously said that if Jimmy Clausen didn't work out, he would retire. And he didn't retire. He's still doing this. So, you can only really go by the measurables for so long. Zach, we've seen, it just hasn't really worked out for him. It didn't work out for him at the Jets once. It didn't work out for him at the Jets a second time. Then he goes to Denver. It doesn't work out there. Now he's over here. And they're paying him a lot. They're paying him $8 million when in the past, the Dolphins haven't spent on a backup quarterback, which is why they've been in the spot that they're in. I'm just saying, had they gone for, I understand why they didn't, because you don't want to have Shedeur as your backup, especially when you have Tua that is your franchise guy. You paid him all of that money last year, but the fan base, honestly, is still very split on if Tua is the guy or not, even though they gave him all the money. So I understand why you wouldn't bring in a guy like Shedeur just to add, fuel to the fire of, hey, if Tua's struggling a little bit, we have Shedeur here who can be better. But on the flip side, devil's advocate, I would rather take a chance on Shedeur Sanders than on Zach Wilson should something happen to Tua.
Well, I love the Ewers pick because it's very late. They spent hardly anything to get him, and Zach Wilson's has a 1-year contract, so Ewers is on the practice squad. He's learning, he's marinating for a year, and then he's very likely to be the backup.
Zach Wilson turns 26 in August, so he's still young.
I find funny always the fact that you've seen someone fail in the pros, you haven't seen the other one fail in the pros, so you believe that the other one you haven't seen is more capable of avoiding failure, even though the way that we measure these things empirically, Zach Wilson is more valuable, not just in the contract he signed, but where he was drafted than the two people you guys are talking about.
I mean, but yeah, if I see Ted Bundy and I see Ted Lasso, I'm going to go with Ted Lasso because I know Ted Bundy's a serial killer. Maybe Ted Lasso's capable of killing, but I haven't seen him do it yet. So I know for sure one of them's a serial killer. I know one of them isn't very good in the NFL.
One of them played for the Jets, and no one is good there.
Yeah, but he also played for the Broncos.
Yeah, and the Broncos weren't very good before he was there, and they weren't very good immediately after he was there.
They were a playoff team last year.
With the team.
Bo Nix. Bo Nix played.
When they got Bo Nix and a different team the following year, yes, they were better. But no one played quarterback well for the Broncos the year that Zach Wilson tried to play quarterback for them.
Yeah, but Zach Wilson also went to Sean Payton, quarterback guru and fixer, and he's gone after a year.
And they got Zach Wilson out of the bargain bin for a 1-year deal, which tells you nobody else wanted him. There was nobody competing to sign Zach Wilson who wouldn't have taken a 1-year deal for peanuts.
I'm not going to sit here and argue that Zach Wilson is good. That's not the argument that I'm making.
Seems like it.
No.
Quarterbacks in the NFL next year are going to be wild, right? You have Justin Fields is probably going to be starting for a team. He's going to be starting for the Jets. Right now, if there isn't, which there very much appears to be, some sort of secret deal between the Steelers and Aaron Rodgers because nothing makes sense as to why they didn't really take an actual quarterback, Mason Rudolph is not going to be starting for the Steelers. So it seems as though there's a handshake, wink, wink agreement that Aaron Rodgers is going to end up there because he's been secretly talking to Tomlin. Because why else would you be rolling out Mason Rudolph as your starter?
I'm guessing that Aaron Rodgers is hurting today watching the Packers in the first 3 rounds take 2 wide receivers and a tackle. It's
not great.
Now you do it.
Do you think there's anything that will ever happen where Aaron's like, maybe it was me?
Put it on the poll at Le Batard Show. Do you think there's anything that will ever happen that Aaron Rodgers will say, maybe it was me?
Folks, listen up. They're here and they're hot. Get ready because Jimmy John's is turning up the heat. After years of perfecting the cold sandwich, toasted sandwiches are finally here. Try one of their 3 all-new toasted creations. The Toasted Chicken Bacon Ranch, all-natural chicken, creamy home-style ranch, applewood smoked bacon, melted provolone, fresh veggies, all on a perfectly toasted French bread. Good God, does that sound delicious. Or the Toasted Roast Beef and Cheddar, premium roast beef, melty cheddar, creamy horseradish sauce, crispy fried onions, fresh veggies, golden toasted French bread. It just keeps getting better. And the Toasted Ultimate Italian, salami, capicola, smoked ham, applewood smoked bacon, melted provolone, shredded Parmesan, fresh veggies toasted to perfection. Or take your favorite Jimmy John classics like the number 9 Italian Nightclub or the number 11 Country Club and get them toasted. Order now at jimmyjohns.com, on the Jimmy John's app, or stop by your local Jimmy John's today.
Hey, you in the audience, it's Mike. You've been a fan of this show, hopefully, for a long time, and you know how much Miller Lite means to me. This partnership, it's real. It's documented. For almost 20 years, Miller Lite has been a partner of the Dan Le Batard Show with Stugotz, and now Miller Lite is celebrating its 50th anniversary. I've had so many great moments with Miller Lite, so many great activations, so many great events presented by Miller Lite, a great partner. Cheers to them. Cheers to 50 incredible years. And for you at home, you know that Miller time always means a good time. From game night to parties with friends or a special anniversary, celebrating important occasions means more moments with the coolest people in your life. Cheers to 50 years of Miller Lite, the great-tasting light beer for people who love beer since 1975. Now's a perfect time to celebrate legendary stories with friends, family, and a great-tasting light beer. It's Miller time. Miller Lite, great taste, 96 calories. Go to MillerLite.com/Dan to find delivery options near you, or you can pick up some Miller Lite pretty much anywhere they sell beer. It's Miller time. Celebrate responsibly. Miller Brewing Company, Milwaukee, Wisconsin, 96 calories and 3.2 carbs per 12 ounces. Howdy, folks. It's Mike Ryan here to remind you that Game Time is the official ticketing partner of the Dan Le Batard Show with Stugotz. As you know, I talk about Game Time plenty on the show because I use it plenty. And the weather is warming up. It is a perfect time to take family or friends, a whole lot of folks. Take them to a ball game. But before you do, why don't you check out the Game Time app? Why? Because Game Time makes getting tickets even faster and easier. Prices on the Game Time app actually go down the closer it gets to first pitch, with killer last-minute deals, all-in prices, views from your seat, and the lowest price guaranteed. Game Time takes the guesswork out of buying MLB tickets. What if you're one of those fans that likes to travel the nation and go to all these different ballparks? Sometimes you don't know what you're getting yourself into. You're not familiar. Well, those panoramic seat views on the app, they certainly help, almost as much as that all-in pricing tab, to make sure there are no surprises at checkout. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code Dan for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code DAN for $20 off. Download the Game Time app today. Last minute tickets, lowest price, guaranteed.
Dan Le Batard.
This guy comes in as the next Wayne Gretzky. His nicknames include the Chosen One and McJesus. Okay? He's a great player. He scores a lot of goals. He scores a ton of assists, but it hasn't translated to making Edmonton a powerhouse in the league.
They're in the final.
Stugotz.
What's your nickname for him?
McOverrated.
This is the Dan Le Batard Show with the Stugotz.
I made the mistake of getting wrapped up in the local hour, in the first hour, on all Shedeur Sanders stuff, so I haven't actually gotten to Greg Cote's very valuable Miami Dolphin draft thoughts. The Miami Dolphins do not do sexy things with the draft, so it's fullbacks and defensive linemen, fat guys taken too early, with the added bonus of a snarky Barry Jackson of the Miami Herald, who is now officially fed up, saying the Dolphins will hold tryouts for cornerbacks at 2 a.m. outside of a Sonic. Sonics.
One in Homestead?
I don't know which one.
The Sonics is right across from their facility. It's in front of the Walmart.
2 a.m. At 2 a.m. workouts for cornerbacks because they have not yet traded Jalen Ramsey, right? They are in talks to trade Jalen Ramsey. They do have a defensive back position problem. But what are your thoughts on the Dolphins draft? Anything here interesting to say as the longtime Miami Herald columnist, a person who's been covering these drafts for about 40 years.
It was a weird pick, Kenneth Grant, in the first round. It was a weird position to pick, and it was a reach. It was a player who wasn't in many first-round mock drafts that I saw. He certainly wasn't in Kuiper's. And it's just, he's a nice player, but at that position, that was their third need after cornerback and offensive guard, and they could have hit it harder. There were available players there, particularly at cornerback at 13, and they bypassed them. So I think it's an average draft, just meh, because after that, I like the Quinn Ewers pick. After that, they did target their positions. They did pick a cornerback late, a guard. They ended up picking 3 defensive tackles, which is probably too many. But, it's the problem with the Dolphins right now, they're stuck in no man's land in the middle of the draft. it's the classic. Not good enough to have a meaningful, a low pick, and not bad enough to have a meaningful high pick, so they're stuck.
Billy, would you do me the favor of telling me the origins of No Man's Land? Why is it a land with no man? Because I don't know where it is that started. I do want to re-ask a couple of questions from earlier in the show. As a prank, it's a good prank. I will say again, cruel, wrong, immoral, but pranks kind of are that.
Dan,
I don't know where you guys put the line on pranks, but sort of that's the point of pranks, to embarrass you and be kind of cruel.
He didn't invent that prank, though. I mean, that's a cliche prank.
No Man's Land, originally the name of the plot of ground lying outside the north wall of the city of London, the site of a place of execution.
Oh, wow. So when you're sent to No Man's Land, there are no men living at the end of you visiting that land.
Dan, I got another Mickey Loomis impression for you. I'm going to try again.
It went so well the first time. Why wouldn't you go through it again?
It was great.
Let me try this again. We're going to take you with our next pick right here, man. And you know it.
Beautiful. That did sound like a general manager. That's great. That's a good imitation.
Yeah.
He's spot on. Great mimicry. Mickey Loomis. That's exactly what he sounds like. I've been in his company. I've talked to Mickey.
Have you?
Yeah, sounds just like it was great imitation.
I'm so glad we went back to that. It was so successful the first time that it's
me
good
too.
that we take those things and let them soar into the sky where they can live freely and just create unity and laughter.
Greg, if you were Shador and you're getting Sanders, would you rather get a call from Mickey Loomis or Mickey Mouse?
Eisner. Well, you know what? If he got a call from Mickey Loomis in the first round, that would have made sense because Greg Cote and Mel Kiper Jr. both had him going number 9 to the Saints.
The other question I wanted to ask you guys, because this is something that I felt like happened with Shador Sanders. Go ahead and come up for me. This is America's second most popular sport, college football. Let's name all the people we thought were stars last year. Just star names. I'm not talking about regional stars. I'm talking about national stars. Because maybe Quinn Ewers qualifies because he's the quarterback at Texas. But you do understand, if you can give me 10 names, Shador's one of them. If you can indeed give me 10 names, and I don't know that you can give me 10 national stars in college football.
The problem with that, Dan, as a metric is because it also factors in heavily how much we talk about people, regardless of whether they were actually good or not. I could throw out Arch Manning as one of those names.
Yes, you could.
Because I know that name. Now, did he play great, and does he deserving? But
I would take him, though. I would say he could be one of the 10. That name would be one of the 10. When this sport is, the fame in this sport is hard to come by if you are not a skill position player because you're wearing a face mask and it takes work to get your name out there because a lot of people are just rooting for laundry or betting on games and the parts are mostly interchangeable. And I know that people listening to this, if you know college football, you might make an argument on behalf of 20 people you think are stars. I'm asking you, give me all the names that you'd put in the class of Shador Sanders as a star. Because the prank hurts more because it happened to a star. The fall hurts more because it happened to a star. The fact that most of these guys don't have a certain humanity to you where you can't even see their faces, but this person, you know his story and you know his dad's story. And it creates a name and a stardom that all of a sudden people are attached the same way they are to the quote-unquote polarizing Tua Tagovailoa, who they know as a name because they saw him in college, and now they've got a rooting interest in who that person is because there's a human underneath the uniform. But can you guys give me a number on what it is that you think you'd put the over-under on college football stars last year? Names that have national stardom.
Let's name them. Travis Hunter, right?
He's far and away number one, I think.
Cam Ward, right?
Yes.
Shador Sanders.
Jeremiah Smith from Ohio State.
Have Ashton Genty that everyone was talking about, but isn't necessarily
It's
a star.
basically the guys at the Heisman ceremony.
Yeah, but what does star power really have to do with the draft?
Oh, I'm just saying the reaction to everything that happened. You're seeing something unprecedented happen because it's a player that's falling, but it's not a random player. It's a player from your second most popular sport, one of the 10 guys that you think of as having a fame. And really, there are only 2 or 3 guys that is there. his teammate is the only guy that I'd put in the same level of stardom, just given who his father is.
Dan, I don't think that's stardom. I think that's infamy, right? Because it's not that Shedeur Sanders was popular. It's popular with the brand packaging of super braggadocious, super, hey, man, I do this my own way. And I'm not making a value judgment on it. I'm just saying
But infamy is part of stardom.
Not always.
No, but Jake Paul or whomever, like, not always.
Not always, but for some people, yes. For some people, yes. When it is the root of your stardom, right? The root of Jake Paul's stardom is I'm an obnoxious asshole, right? I think what happened to Shedeur Sanders has that because it is his stardom is rooted not only in his ability, but also in his ability to be polarizing on purpose, not, hey, I'll just live in my life and all of a sudden all these people are upset. Yeah. But no, like, oh, let me rub it in their faces. Like, when you do that, it attracts a certain kind of attention that when this fall happens on draft day, yeah, because it's not just, oh, wow, poor starters, how could this happen? It's like, yes, finally come up into this guy in a way that, for instance, let's just assume Arch Manning had played last year and had played well enough and had a fall on draft day. I think there'd be a lot of questions like, oh, what happened to Arch Manning? But it wouldn't be this celebration of, yes, in your face, dude.
I think the point that Amin's making is we're a country of haters. We love seeing people that are great do bad. Like, that's the entire reason why we're sponsored by the haters. Why? Because when we do well, the haters hate it.
And when Tom Brady was drafted in the 6th round, it wasn't particularly controversial at the time because he wasn't projected to be a high first-round pick. We didn't know how good he would be in the NFL. With Sanders, he was projected to be a top 10 pick for most of the draft buildup, and then he just systematically went down and down and down. And because of who his father is, he's a bigger name than he otherwise would be because he's on the team with the two-way Heisman Trophy star. There's more spotlight around Shedeur than there otherwise would have been. So that's why he's a big star.
Greg, you can almost say like people didn't really know who Tom Brady was, right? Like he was playing 2 quarterbacks in Michigan. Like he was there half the time.
Yeah, for sure.
And social media was basically zero.
Right.
There was nothing. So with Shedeur Sanders, with the 24-hour media cycle, with social media, with him making rap songs, with his dad being Deion Sanders, with him flashing a $70,000 watch on the sidelines in full uniform to Colorado State's crowd or Arizona State's crowd or whoever it was, it's like the level of notoriety is just so much higher now that this is rife for things to happen.
And he's also in the NIL era. He's one of the first big national stars in the NIL era where all of a sudden it's not a scandal if a guy has a Mercedes-Benz or a Bentley because they're entitled to now.
Really, like, LeVar Ball prepared us for all of this.
He did.
This is the only difference. The only difference between the Ball family and the Sanders family is that Deion Sanders was great as a player and is great at his job right now, whereas LeVar Ball was just great at talking,
Clown.
Right? Oh well, let's not use derogatory language like that. He was
professional talker.
He's a professional talker,
professional
right?
clown,
entrepreneur,
promoter.
But also part of that that promoter part is that I am going to oversell my kids. I'm not just going to sell them. I'm going to oversell them. And when you oversell a product, Dan, you get to a place where there are going to be people who are loyal to the product and there are going to be people who can't stand the product. And I think that's the difference between the regular infamy of stardom that you're talking about versus when it is engineered.
I think one of the differences also with like the Balls and the Sanders is because Deion was Deion, there was a lot more credibility behind it, right? Because you just assumed, and he was a coach, he was his son's coach, but he was his coach, he was a coach, he was a star, obviously he knows the talent. But Lonzo also, and I could be misremembering this, Lonzo also played it very differently than Shedeur did, right? Like Lonzo, to my recollection, wasn't going in and kind of acting the way that LeVar was. He wasn't going in meetings. He wasn't kind of blowing things up. He was just, they were trying to get him to the Lakers and they got him to the Lakers and he was more quiet on the two and he was always kind of like an accessory to LeVar when LeVar was going out doing LeVar things. Here you had Deion and you had Shedeur. Shedeur was acting as though he had the talent and the fame of Deion when Deion was in college, and he wasn't at that level.
So Lonzo, no. LaMelo, though. Yeah. He's got all the same vibes as LaMelo Ball. And again,
but LeVar disappeared by the time LaMelo came around. Yeah. Like LaMelo is better than Lonzo, and LaMelo is more talented, so he was able to make it without LeVar going and having to hype him up. Porcello.
Put it on the poll,
mean,
please. Are we a country of haters? And the other thing that I wanted to address with you guys as it relates to just this thing, I don't know if there's a greater crime that an athlete can commit with fans than arrogance that fans feel is unearned. Because we're kind of okay with arrogance if you've earned it. If you know you're great, we kind of like that. If you know you're great, there are exceptions, right? Barry Bonds was somebody that could be viewed, actually, it tends to be the arrogant black guy most often that has trouble overcoming his excellence because of the jerkiness. But we tend to like someone who knows he or she is great and carries him or herself with that greatness. But the unearned arrogance is the part that bothers a lot of people, even though in the case of Shedeur, I think it's earned. Like the quarterback who helped turn the worst program in the country into a program everybody was talking about, I believe that he earned whatever it is that he walked into those rooms with. But you've heard me say before that this is true of at least the American sports fan. The American sports fan prefers humility, even if it's false, to arrogance, even if it's the truth. But we'll allow it if it's the truth and we know you're excellent. Like, we'll be like, man, I wish I was that cool. Or Joe Burrow, we're all like, I really like the way that he carries himself. But also, the stat sheet supports it. The idea that everyone wants to knock Shedeur down before he even gets into the league, when his arrogance is not unearned. No, in fact, the draft just told you he was more successful than he had any right to be at Colorado, because the draft just told you he's not that physically talented, and more sacks than anyone in the sport tells you that offensive line wasn't any good either.
But the draft doesn't actually tell you that, because he didn't actually fall to where he was going to be drafted. He took a historic fall. And it's not just like sports fans that don't like it. Obviously, it's the front office, it's the GMs, it's the coaches, because like they have a lot of insecurities too, where they're not going to want to have someone come in who hasn't played a down in the league when their jobs are on the line, coming and dictating the terms, which is part of why he didn't end up getting drafted.
If we take the name out of the situation and see a kid who went from an HBCU to another big school that was terrible and made them relevant, and then kind of fell in the draft, you'd be like, nice story. Like, that's a kid that has worked his way up and has earned a spot in the NFL. Now we put in Shedeur Sanders and all the things that come with it, and now it's a terrible story.
But Tony, I would say if it was the same story but a different name, but keep the part where he allegedly has his headphones on and everything. Keep the part where allegedly he has his entourage there, and they're like,
It changes things.
It's the same. It's not his name. It's what Dan said earlier. We thought Deion Sanders' name was going to help him, and it didn't. It didn't save him out of this.
But this is something, though, that, God almighty, the baggage that we consumers bring to all of this. One of the great compliments that I've gotten in my career for something I've written came from Steve Kerr, because I was writing about the 2010-2014 Heat, and I was saying if we took this story, pay cuts, sacrifices, everything, wrapped it in the American flag and made it the Olympic team, America would absolutely root for those guys as a symbol for our American arrogance and greatness. But because of all of the baggage that we brought to that discussion and this one, what ends up happening is Shedeur Sanders gets prank called, and some people enjoy that he got his comeuppance, as Amin tried to say.
And you know it. Folks, listen up. They're here and they're hot. Get ready, because Jimmy John's is turning up the heat. After years of perfecting the cold sandwich, toasted sandwiches are finally here. Try one of their 3 all-new toasted creations. The Toasted Chicken Bacon Ranch, all-natural chicken, creamy home-style ranch, applewood smoked bacon, melted provolone, fresh veggies, all on a perfectly toasted French bread. Good God, does that sound delicious. Or the Toasted Roast Beef and Cheddar, premium roast beef, melty cheddar, creamy horseradish sauce, crispy fried onions, fresh veggies, golden toasted French bread. It just keeps getting better. And the Toasted Ultimate Italian, salami, capicola, smoked ham, applewood smoked bacon, melted provolone, shredded Parmesan, fresh veggies toasted to perfection. Or take your favorite Jimmy John classics like the number 9 Italian Nightclub or the number 11 Country Club and get them toasted. Order now at jimmyjohns.com, on the Jimmy John's app, or stop by your local Jimmy John's today.